Hello, my friends. We're all interested in many successful filmmakers and actors and so on and so forth. But what about the ones that have not been very well received? Their stories are still worth telling even today. And so, for this review, we'll be uncovering the story of Edward D. Wood Jr., otherwise known as Ed Wood. Okay, so my first experience watching Ed Wood. Okay, well, I was, I'm trying to think. I think I just, at that point I was very familiar and I had watched a lot of Tim's films and I was sort of rummaging around and seeing, like, what other stuff has he done. And I came across Ed Wood, of course, and I thought... That's an unusual name. That's a very curious name, Ed and Wood, and to me it sounded like some kind of fictional story, but actually I found out that it was based on a true story, and so I said, wow, Tim doing a film about a real person. I didn't think that he'd be doing like films like that, but anyway. So I bought the DVD and I watched it, and my my expressions were, wow, it's so beautiful to look at, the black and white, I thought the acting was incredible, very, very unique characters, and the fact that they're based on real people just made it even more interesting. But let's just go on. We'll save those characters for later. So here's trivia from Tash, even though she still hasn't seen the movie. But anyway, here she is!
Thank you very much! Tim made the decision of making the film black and white as Martin Landau looked more like Bela Lugosi. It soon became clear that the film looked more like Ed's film that the studio agreed.
Yes, Martin Landau won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for that film, along with Best Makeup to create the look for Bela Lugosi. And I agree, if you haven't seen it, you will be amazed by his performances. Wow.
Tim's favourite scene was when Kathy accepted the fact that Ed was a transvestite.
Which I can understand, because very few people would immediately accept that. I would, though. I wouldn't be freaked out.
Yeah, no. If you look at Tim Curry, though, then you would be freaked out.
Yeah. Each to their own.
One day Kathy Woods came to the set. The scene had Johnny looking messed up and Tim was nervous of her faults, but she thought the performance was exactly like Ed.
Yeah, if you're wondering, Kathy was a woman who married Ed, and so she was pretty much the person they kind of went to because Ed kind of died.
I love it. It kind of
died. I don't know how to say that nicely.
He kind of kicked the bucket. He passed away.
Yeah.
The budget, which was 18 million, was more than all of Ed's films put together.
Yes, and if you have seen the film, you will know what a struggle Ed went to fund his movies. Poor guy. Okay, where do I start with this movie? Okay, well, obviously, and this is going because Big Eyes hadn't come out, I was really fascinated with the fact that this was a biopic and this was about, it was about a non-fiction person, and so that really intrigued me going, because, most of the films that I've seen of Tim thus far were his fantasies and, his fairy tales, and so I was like, okay, this could be something completely different. And what I love about it is just how they attacked the story and how they attacked the characters who are obviously real. Like, the decision to make it black and white, I can't imagine it in color. It's like a story that's meant to be told in black and white. It's kind of like Frankenweenie. It's kind of like the classic, horror films. I can't imagine it anything else being in color, and it just worked. And I even loved that they did a couple of jokes that it was in black and white. Like, the guy being colorblind, I thought that was funny. So, they did joke about it, and I think it sort of added to where Ed Wood tells Bela Lugosi, like, I prefer the much older films, they had a lot more kind of atmosphere, and I think the black and white sort of helped that. It made it fun, but when it got to sort of the more serious moments and a little bit of a dark moment, it helped as well. The other thing is the performances were amazing. I give credit to all the I was even surprised by Sarah Jessica Parker. I didn't imagine that she would ever be in a Tim Burton movie, but there we go. But she did a really good job. I know that I heard something, I don't know where, but apparently the real Dolores Fuller didn't like the way she portrayed her. Apparently it just made her look like a horrible person. Okay, I won't argue, I can kind of see where she's coming with that, but at the same time, I always saw it as, the sort of world that Ed was in and he was trying to create with his filmmaking, it kind of got a little bit too much for her and she just couldn't handle it. So in some cases, like, it's a shame that she sort of walked out, but at the same time, I don't blame her entirely. I think it's just the kind of world that she was wrapped in, and it just wasn't for her. So, that happens. Who is the other girlfriend? What is her name? Kathy, there we go. Kathy was a great character, even though, like, she was, you only see her, pretty much later in the film. She was great. I remember Tim saying that one of his favorite scenes from this movie was when Ed confesses to her that he is a transvestite. He doesn't hide it like before. And she just kind of goes, okay, who says that? It's like, oh, wow, like, it's great. And apparently she really liked the movie and she liked Johnny's portrayal and says, yeah, that's pretty much Ed. So that was really good. And the other characters, strangely enough, I noticed something, and maybe I'm completely looking too much into it, but I loved the way that each character was introduced. Introduced through their careers, like what they do. Like, I'm really trying to remember the names now. This is not good. We see the actors acting the first time we see them. We see Ed directing the first time we see him. We see Vampire on her show. We see Bela Lugosi in a coffin, obviously symbolizing Dracula. The guy, the con who's showing the visions, we see him predicting the future the first time we see him, so it's kind of, you know what I mean? So it was very sort of career-based with all these characters, and then they sort of get roped in and everything, and I really liked that idea, because again, it sort of gave that theme that, oh yeah, we're only judging you on the quality of your work and everything, and obviously Ed was, seen as the worst director. But after, you kind of get that feeling that each character, through Ed, they really kind of, they sort of, when they were wrapped into that world, they could still see that passion. I know some people were kind of like, one of the great scenes was when he was like, no, this is my movie, I'm directing it, he comes out, in his, dressed as a woman, and everyone's just kind of, and he's like, come on, we can do this, and everyone's like, okay. But, we'll get to Ed in a minute. Then we've got Martin Landau as Bela Lugosi, and this is one of the few times I actually agree with the Oscars. You really deserved your Oscar for supporting actor. I mean, oh my god, you were fantastic. I couldn't have asked for a better Bela Lugosi portrayal. That was just amazing. You were funny. You showed that you were an inspiration to Ed. You really got that. You managed to make people really listen to you. through your performance. You were engaging and you were tragic, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful. And not even that, the relationship between Ed and Bella in the film, that is the heart of the movie. That's the heart of the movie right there, and you really, really connect in that way. I know that a lot of people, when the movie came out, everyone was kind of going, oh, this is kind of like, Tim's relationship with Vincent Price, which is his hero. And yeah, I can see that. And, and maybe that's why this relationship in the film was so strong, because this was something that Tim could relate to himself. And that's great, because you need something to relate to, otherwise why would you do it in the first place? But not only that, but Tim really, I think, admires the passion that Ed has, and this is going to go to Johnny Depp's performance. Alongside Edward Scissorhands, Ed Wood is probably one of his best performances. It's up there, and he just got it right. And a lot of people usually, criticize it for kind of saying, well, he's too optimistic, and they're thinking, under these circumstances, like, how? But to be honest, like, if they're arguing about that, watch the first 5 minutes. He's lying in bed and he's questioning, have I chosen the right path? Orson Welles is doing much better than me, and it's like, I sort of liked, he does question himself, and at one point he does kind of sort of think, oh, right, okay, someone really, that kind of got to me a bit. If he kept having those feelings all the way through the movie, it'd be quite a depressing movie, but anyway. His passion is what I love about it. A lot of people, like, maybe might be turned off by how much he talks and everything, but honestly, when you're so enthusiastic about what you do, and you know exactly what you have in mind, that's great. Kind of weird saying that, because Tim hardly talks, but, people do it in their own way. But I think Tim and Ed certainly have something in common, and that's not, well, not their films, because Tim has obviously done much better than Ed, but, like, there's always a passion in his filmmaking, and that's why I think a lot of people recognize from Tim's work that, oh, there is a director, there is someone making these decisions. You kind of get the sense of that person behind the camera. And that's what I got, and that's why I think he is such a great director. That's one of the reasons. And I should have wrapped this up, but quickly talk about Ed's hobby of dressing in women's clothes. What I really liked about the way they did it is they sort of introduced it as though, he's like, yeah, I dress in women's clothing. And he's kind of like, okay, I'll just tell you. And it's like, again, from Johnny's performance, you just kind of, he sort of plays it as though, this is what I do, this is, I just like to dress in women's clothing, and you sort of get that kind of, yeah, it's one of those things that, people just have to do. It's like one of those things they do to stay sane, And again, they didn't make a huge deal out of it. He didn't, like, sort of make a big entrance, sort of like, I'm just thinking of Frankenfurter from Rocky Horror, He sang a fucking song about it. I enjoy that character, of course. But with this kind of film, I liked the fact that they didn't, like, sort of make it like Rocky Horror, Priscilla Queen of the Desert. They just kind of like, yeah, this is just one of the things that he does. But again, like, going back, his passion for filmmaking, like, and after seeing this film and, like, deciding to watch his film, like Ed's films, it's kind of like, yeah, they're not great, but you still sense that enjoyment, and therefore I actually end up enjoying them. It's like, you kind of laugh at it because it's like, it's so bad it's good, kind of a thing. Well, it's hilariously bad. It's not like, yeah, you sort of laugh at it, but at the same time you sort of, after seeing Ed Wood, you understand a little bit more, sort of, okay, so yeah, you sort of get that process going. He really thought he was making the greatest films of all time, and so it's kind of kind of tragic it didn't turn out that way, but oh well. But you know what? I think what I really admire from this film is that, and this is, and I think like Tim's choices in the people that he actually wants to do a biopic, and obviously I'll get onto this with Big Eyes, is that, you know, even if they're not successful, even though they're not known, if their stories are worth telling. And Ed is certainly a character that, you know, after I saw the movie, I was like, I am so glad that I now know who he is, and I know who all the other characters are, and it's like, I'm really glad I came across, you know, this movie. Again, it's a great sample to Tim's filmography, and, you know, it's introduced me to a lot of other films, but it's also made me realize, you know, it's not exactly the success, it's the person and their passion towards what they do, and I think that counts even more in my mind. Ooh! Try that again.
As Martin Landau looks more like Bela Lugosi.
Bela Lugosi.
Oh, I've been laughing. What do you want?
You just need to uncover the sheet.
What?
You just need to uncover the sheet.
Oh, I have to do it.
Yes. I was expecting it more slowly than that.
Oh, fuck's sake.
Like you're over here, and you do it like that. You know what I mean? Slowly over my head. Okay.
Oh, fuck.
I can't do it. Oh, a lot of blue.
You're rubbish.
I know.
Get back under there. I need to press the fucking recording button.
Get back in there. Okay. It's stuck. Wow. I'm so.
God, man!
I am trying.
Oh, flip's sake, girl!
Should I just unveil it myself? That's the only way we can do this. Oh, fuck's sake, just do it!
I'm not fucking doing it! You just keep giggling!
I'm never prepared when you're gonna. Okay, right.
What, I clicked.
Is it on?
Yes!
Oh, you just snapped your fingers! It didn't snap your fingers!
How many times? 3 times?
3. Yeah, okay. It's your fault. It's your fault.